What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast. We are your hosts, Platinum Producers, Arkatech Beatz. I am Jugrnaut.
I am Mike Trauma D.
And together, we are Arkatech Beatz. Like I said, Platinum Producers. I always got to keep saying that.
Wonder Twins powers activate.
Hey, man, that's what we're doing. But if it's your first time here, you're welcome to the podcast. Every week, what we do is we get together and we talk about different music business issues, topics, try to give artists and producers new game, just new information on how to really navigate this music business to help you save time, help you save some money. Again, if it's your first time here, to make sure that you subscribe, follow, notifications, whatever you got to do, just to make sure that you get the content. So today we're going to do something. We're going to get into the 5 biggest struggles of an independent artist. And this is just the 5 that we came up with. I'm sure there's a whole lot more, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
we feel like with independent artists, and I've been doing a lot of work with a lot of independent artists, it's just a knowledge gap. And there's a lot of things that, people may or may not know. So what we want to do is we want to try to see if we can kind of help folks to navigate some of the 5 biggest struggles of an independent artist from our vantage point. So without further ado, the first thing that we got on our list, right, is should artists or should they fight to own their own masters, right? So within the biggest struggle is like, we always talk about the struggles with dealing with your masters, right? So how should an artist worry about having their masters, or what's the situation behind it all?
Well, it's funny. Like, it really depends on the nature of the deal. It depends on the position you're in. If you have leverage to own it, that's fine. The other thing is that most major labels, they're really not trying to let you get that, especially if you're a new artist. It's pretty difficult to get that up front. But then you have to ask yourself, as an artist, what does owning your masters mean? Will you be able to leverage that into something? Would you be able to exploit your masters? Would you be able to create opportunities for yourself with the master? So it really depends if you'll be able to use it towards your advantage. Depending on the deal, you may not be able to own that, but you may have the right to buy it back later on, as you and the label work together to help build your build up who you are, your brand. So it may not be something that you can do up front, or something that is realistically you can own up front. So it really depends. It comes really down to, will you be able to do that? And what would you get out of it?
It's funny that you say that, because it's like, now is the culture of, hey man, ownership. You want to own as much as you can, and that's really what the catchphrase is. You want to own all your masters and so forth and so on. But like you said, if you don't know how to exploit your masters, they're of no use. They're of no use. No
you
use.
Own 100% of nothing.
Right. So when you're first getting in and you first got a situation going on, like I feel like if you can get ownership of your masters, if you're in a position where you can get ownership of your masters, that means that you've been exploiting your music the right way, right? If that's even a negotiation topic for you, that means that you've been able to exploit your music. You've already known how to sell it out here in the marketplace. You've already learned how to get it synced and so stuff like that. So if you know how to do that as an artist, an independent artist, or if you've been able to get your music placed into movies, and you know how to get your music consumed on different levels, then yeah, if you're savvy enough, you should look to retain it. And if it's even on the table that you can negotiate it, then yeah, that means there's some value there, and you know how to exploit it. You should look to retain it. But for those who don't know how to do that and need to learn the ropes, it's going to be what it's going to be. Like, you're going to have to, kind of like you said, you don't want 100% of nothing. So it's like, it all depends on where you are as an artist, and if you know how to exploit the masses. If you don't know how to exploit the masses, they're really no value to you. And right. I know that may feel like, wow, you're telling us to sell the masters. No, I'm telling you to use the situation to leverage your brand, get yourself big enough to where your masters can have value, right? It'll get to a point where your contract may or may not may come to an end, and then you still have the ability to go out there and have the brand value to go create new masters, right, with new value. So right. it's just about getting yourself in position, and that's how I'm looking at it as well. So when we're talking about, now that we're on the subject of masters, like for artists who may have already got them, who've already been in a situation and they're getting their masters back, should they try to re-record what they've already had, or?
That's funny because that's been a topic of a person who can't get their masters back and they're trying to re-record it. We've seen that in that situation with the Irv and Ashanti. That's a tough situation, but I don't think when you re-record record music, I don't think you're going to get the same quality. I don't think you're going to get the same music. I don't think you're going to get the same it's not going to be the same record no matter what you do. You're not going to get the same record, and then there might be some legal issues that come along with that, so if you're going to do a re-recording, you're going to have to do some research and speak with some lawyers to find out what's going to be the legal ramifications from that.
Right. So let's jump into this. Let's jump into the second one, right? All right. The second one for the 5 biggest struggles of an independent artist. All right. Mm-hmm. Number 2 would be how to plan to finish your next big project. Right. That tends to be, the issue sometimes when we're dealing with setting up for independent artists. Is like, okay, how do you plan your next project? How do you get those things done so that you can continue to stay relevant and keep your momentum going?
Well, you're gonna have to definitely I think the key thing to do is you gotta itemize everything, write everything down. We all know that you gotta have your marketing, your promotion, and underneath each category, you're gonna do subcategories of areas that you need to hit. You're gonna have dates. Speak with, especially if you're doing streaming, you're gonna need to make sure that you have your music in, your artwork in by a specific date. Depending on the DSP, some require further lead time, so that it could reach certain things, it could reach certain retailers. Additionally, if you're doing some online promotional campaigns, they're going to need additional time to set you up. Certain press, they're going to need certain amount of time. So it really just comes down to making sure you're organized, making sure you're having all the dates and meeting those dates. As long as you meet all your dates, knock out all the requirements to meet all of those dates, then you'll be on your way to having a successful release, like getting it out on time, getting everything completed in time. And then after that it's out, now you have to maintain. Now you have to continue promoting those projects. You got to continue, whether it's putting out, running behind a specific single, maybe shooting a video for it, maybe doing a remix, watching the charts, watching how it does, watching the streams, checking the analytics to see which demographics are interested in your product, and actually navigating to those things. Creating some merch so you can have additional things to offer, being updated on your content so you can continue being relevant. You can continue pushing your product. So it's all of these things that you have to do, and then you have to actually have a schedule, have a calendar with dates, and just make sure that you're hitting all of those dates.
So if we're getting into like specifics, like when we're talking about the planning of a project from beginning to end,
Hmm.
um, should we be talking more of a full project in terms of like an EP, or should we be talking about in this climate for independent artists? Should we be talking more along the lines for singles and release schedules for singles to kind of make sure that you can build a momentum? Which one do you think is
Well,
better in this climate right now?
I think it would be the same process. It's because you're going to still need on the front end. You're still going to need the promotion, the marketing. You still got to meet dates. You still got to. There's certain things that's going to be in stone that you always have to meet. Um, but if we're choosing between singles and EPs, I would prefer. I would say do the EP only because you have more of a chance of something hitting. If you're just doing the one single, you know, that may not be the record. But if you're working on a 6, 8 records that you're pushing, you know, you may find out that the record that you thought was the record is not the record. And this other thing record over here is the one. Check your analytics. This is the record that's getting the streams. So then now you could say, okay, let me now gravitate to that record, being that so many people are loving that record, and that could be a quote unquote single. But in my opinion, I would say the shotgun approach is a good way to work. And everybody has different tastes. In this day and age when we're doing a lot of streaming, a lot of new discovery of records, old and new, the key thing is to have um, as much product out there as possible, because you never know who or what is going to like what or what. It doesn't. You just never know at this in this day and age. So you're better off just putting out a project that has a number of records and go from there.
It's crazy because at least with artists now, they have the benefit of analytics, real time, like
Right.
real time analytics. So then and you can always pivot based on the data, right? So if you've planned out your project appropriately in terms of lead time, like you said, release schedule, video schedule, then we're talking about marketing campaign schedules. And if you're
Hmm.
consistent with those schedules, and then if you're watching the analytics and you're watching the data, and you'll be able to see where you're getting your spins from, and then because you can target your promotion
Right.
to where you're getting the most traction at, or you can get boots on the ground, try to do a pop up event again to get more awareness and or sell merch, etc. Like this is the game. So this is the way to kind of plan and finish your next big project and trying to get everything kind of set up and scheduled throughout the situation. Um, I guess what I wanted to also ask is like, how long should you know the planning and the execution of a project really take?
That's and that's always a funny thing, because throughout the years it has changed. I remember when you would have a maybe a 4 to 6 months lead up on a record, maybe a year lead up on a record. This album is dropping in November, and we're here in April. Doing the lead time, doing the whole campaign, the marketing, dropping the single, then waiting an X amount of months, drop the next single. You know, but now people are dropping albums like next week, Tuesday, like out the blue. Sometimes there is no single.
All right,
You just they're just
just
dropping
an album.
they're
Yeah.
just dropping the album, and then you come back for it. You find out about it. You go and you stream it. So it's funny, and it really depends on where you are in your career that you have the clout to even do something like that. If you're looking at the first week numbers, if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for the high first week numbers. But in the most cases, you want to make sure that you sustain streams. You don't want to just come in and go out. You know, you want to be able to sustain. So that's why you have these promotional campaigns, and to make sure that you're active and you continue supporting it. You know, so it's you know, as far as lead time, it really varies. You know, it really comes down to the time that you have and your target. You know, but you have to look into your analytics and you have to see, okay, you know, where are you getting your fans from? You got to go out there and do shows and be in those regions and dictate, okay, this area, maybe I'm going to need a little more time to crack this region. Oh, this region is ready, and maybe I could go ahead right now. You know, so it really there was no real one off on that. It's something that, you know, again, some people take 6 months to a year to put out a project. Some people drop their project in the next couple of hours. They'll just drop it out the blue. So the rules for that is all over the place. But you have to make sure that how whatever direction you choose, that you're prepared for it. You know, if you're gonna drop it today, make sure that you have the marketing, make sure you have the promotion, make sure you have people ready to push the product. Make sure you have these things ready at the go. So when it's time to drop it, you can support the project.
That's actually like goal right there. It's like you have to have the infrastructure to support what you're dropping
Right.
after you get it set up. So it's like, yeah, we have to execute to the point where we're able to come out, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you have the support system ready and available. You know, for something that may catch on. Like, what would you do if it starts to catch on? Like, or do you have the way to run behind it? So if it starts to gain traction and people start to really rock with it, you know, so you
Yeah.
kind of have to prepare yourself for those type of things. So, you know, independent artists, make sure you're paying attention. So we're going to get into number 3, right? Which is
Mhm.
uh, work-life balance.
Oh,
You know, because you know, and I know as an independent artist, when you're first starting out, you most likely are going to have, you know, the situation where we're talking about, you know, how do you manage work-life balance? You know, in dealing with your situation like that. You know what I mean? So
yeah. You may have a job. You know, you may have a 9 to 5, which a lot of independent artists and you know, producers and all. You may have a 9 to 5 job. You may have, you know, a full fledged family, you know, that you have to take care of, and you have responsibilities. And these are the things that, you know, like, you know, Jug always says, you know, folks don't talk about. You know, uh, how do you you know, maintain with all of that. You know, and one of the things that I would say is, you know, again, creating a schedule. You know, creating a schedule, block out time where you can focus on your craft, and at the same time, folks, you got to take time out to focus on the other aspects of your life. Because if you don't do those things, if you don't take the time to do those things, they'll start to mesh into each other, and will cause a lot of chaos. And in this game, you need to be focused. You want to be creative, and if you have a lot of things outside of those, your career, if you got a lot of family issues going on, things at work, you know, if you got a lot of those things going on, it could really interfere with your creativity. It could interfere with your grind, and you know, you could end up just, you know, not hitting the goals that you want to hit. So you have to really spend time, make sure that you create spaces, you know, block out time, block time out for your family. It can't be just grinding, 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 and you don't got time for your family to do what you have to do, because, you know, when those issues start to arise, it's going to bleed over. You know, same thing at work. You got to spend your time, do your 9 to 5, do whatever you got to do, knock that out, come home, or get to your grind, and then go over to, you know, your household. Make sure your household's good. You have to make sure that these areas are segregated, so that, and because if they bleed into each other, it can cause problems. So take time to make sure each of those areas of your life is good. They get the attention they need. Um, you know, in this hip hop game, we always talk about the grind, the grind, the grind, but that doesn't always mean the grind to just the music, the grind alone. We're talking about the grind in general, the grind in taking care of your family and making sure they got what they need, so that when you're away doing your music, they're not suffering, they're not going through whatever issues. Same thing. If you're doing a 9 to 5, you're doing your grind, you're knocking out whatever responsibility you got to knock out in your 9 to 5. And once you're done with that, you could be able to grind solely on your music. You could have the attention span to just focus on this. Because again, if you're not solely taking care of those things and they start to collide, it's game over for you. Trust me, you'll burn out quick, you fall into depression, and it's downhill from there.
It's a very, very, very slippery slope, especially when you're first starting out and you have to, let's face it, a lot of folks who are trying to get into it have to fund the dream. The only way to fund the dream is to either you got a 9 to 5, and for those other people, you're hustlers. No judgment here. You know what I mean? But either way, you have to fund the dream. And then now when you're trying to fund the dream, that takes time away from what you need to do. So now we're talking about essentially having 2 full-time jobs, right? Because you're trying to grind for your dream. You're trying to grind to get the money to support yourself and, use that to fund your dream. And then you still, like you said, have a work life. You have a life. Like you said, they'll collide. People will not, And what I wish I knew earlier was to create the balance. I think early on when we started, I didn't have a concept of that. The thought was always like, well, we'll get to that. Vacation, yeah, we'll get to that. Relationships and all of that, yeah, we'll get to that. Children, we'll get to that, right? Like all of those things, create a family, so forth and so on. We'll get to that. And it can go 2 ways. You may never get to it, right? Like,
yeah, if you're not careful,
you may never get to it, and you may never experience the things that you could experience even when you start to hit certain levels of success. You can get into the mind frame of, we're just working. We're not worried about doing that now. We'll do that later. And before you know it, you some of the prime years of your life have already passed. So it's about, like, again, creating that work-life balance. And then also you can, like you said, grind yourself to the bone, to where you got nothing left. And you and I talked about this in a different podcast about the mental health implications of this business and how this business creates a lot of mental health issues that people may be self-medicating with, but may not really be addressing because there's no work-life balance.
Yeah. It's not addressed, man. It really isn't, man. They're not really telling you out there, like, how difficult it is. Like, for example, like, your favorite producer will be banging out records, and all of a sudden he's gone, and you're like, oh, he fell off. What happened? But you don't know what happened behind the scenes. You don't know what's going on in his private life. He had a baby. Baby mama situations are going on. Like, there's so many things that happen, and you tend to forget that artists and producers and they're human beings. And we have families at the end of the day. And there's things that go on the same way just the everyday person. There's things that go on behind the scenes that they have to deal with. And in order to continue that success, to continue hitting, you have to make sure that the other areas in your life is okay, because again, if it'll bleed over, and then they'll be talking to about you like this. Oh, you fell off. You didn't, and we all know the public ain't easy. They'll come down on you.
Yeah. They don't know that life. They don't know that life can get into the way. And they don't really realize that this is a creative business. And your creativity, sometimes for some people, they may create good under stress, right? In the beginning.
but
But
that's not something that they could sustain.
exactly.
You burn out.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say. That's just not sustainable. It's not a sustainable model to try to work under that level of pressure for an extended period of time. Like you will crash and burn, right? This is where the alcohol abuse comes in. This is where the drug abuse comes in, right? Because now you're trying to find ways to coping mechanisms
Yeah.
to deal with the pressure. It's a lot of pressure to succeed in anything. Not just I'm not even just talking about the music business. To succeed in anything, it takes a tremendous amount of pressure, or a tremendous amount of discipline. Just to kind of get over the hump and do the things that the other people are not willing to do. So I would always encourage folks to try to have some work-life balance. Other folks would say, "Hey, you don't have time for that, and there's no work-life balance. It's all work." I tend to disagree. We're talking about people, overeating. That's also a situation. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about weight gain,
Overindulging
harder.
in women and being promiscuous and like it's so many ways people use so many different things to cope, and I want to add, having a good support system too. Your day ones, that know you and stand by you. That's important. The people that are in your circle, like to say, hey, you may want to slow down on this, or when you're going through these things, having that outlet to communicate and to talk to, because again, the business is very hard on you mentally. I mean, physically that's one thing, but mentally is a whole nother ball game. The thought process that's required, and for it to be on all the time, to be able to pivot when so many events happen, it could be very challenging. And again, this is not something that's explained in a book, really. It's something that nobody really talks about.
Nobody talks about it.
All you see is people crashing and burning, and social media just eats it up as entertainment.
It makes fun of it.
Yeah.
And folks don't really realize it, like this person didn't have the right work-life balance. This person wasn't able to separate the smoke and mirrors from real life. You know what I mean? They weren't able to separate the fact that the business requires a certain level of work, but also you have to now make sure that you're tending to yourself.
Right.
No one can work 100% of the time. You know what I'm saying? Like no one can do that. Like so, the connotation of the things that people are out here saying it's not true. And the ones that are successful in doing that, that's probably the top 0.5% of the whole population that can do that. But for the majority of folks who are trying to get in, trying to work, have a real 9 to 5, have a family. If we're talking about juggling the family, yourself, your career, and a 9 to 5 as an independent artist or whatever else they may be doing to get the funds and access to capital to do the work, it's like a Molotov cocktail that's going to lead to a burn. It's going to explode in a way that you've never seen before. So we always encourage artists to just make sure that you're carving out time for your mental health while you're on the grind. We're not saying that you're not supposed to be out here working and it's not hard. It is hard, but you have to remember that you have to make sure that you're carving out some time for yourself as well as trying to, achieve the goal.
Let me jump in real quick. Also, be selective of what you put on social media. Let me just add that while we're talking about life-work balance. You don't have to put your personal life on blast, man. You don't have to. You could be very selective. Like we all know that the social media, you need content, but you do not have to put your personal life on this platform. And we're talking about life-work balance here. You don't have to put your personal life, because what happens is when it starts to cross over and things start coming back to you, it can make things even more challenging and more difficult, mentally. When when you're dealing with your personal life, when you're dealing with things at home, and then you're trying to navigate this music business, it just all it does is blur the lines. And some people do it for as part of the person that they are. Some people do it as content, and kudos to them, but it doesn't always work out for them. And I'm not going to go into all of the names, but you know, some of your big celebrities, they are suffering because they put just way too much of their personal information on these platforms, and they leave themselves open to all sorts of ridicule, judgment, you
Public
know,
scrutiny.
yeah, threats, everything, and
It's funny. I'm glad you brought that up though, because I'm glad that you said that, because I never really looked at that like you said, like you have your work, you got your personal life, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to keep those things separate. But social media won't allow you to do that, right? Social media kind of makes folks feel like everything needs to be on social media, and like you said, it's like your personal situation can now just you can add an extra layer of pressure to something that shouldn't have pressure,
right,
right? Because again, like you said, public judgment, ridicule,
yeah,
everything. So I agree with that when you say that. Like, hey, man, keep some of that stuff private. Some of that stuff doesn't need to be out in the situation for public opinion. Like, you create a situation for yourself that you and your loved ones don't even need. Like, to be honest, like
yeah.
your loved ones don't need all of that. So it's interesting that you said that, man, and that's a different area of work-life balance that I hope that artists are paying attention to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, be selective. So, in work life balance, be selective. If that's the direction you choose, just remember that it's you open yourself up to certain things, and you should always be prepared for that. And to take the time out, take the time off. There needs to be really a national time off from Instagram or whatever. Like a day off where everybody could just not today. Get that break and get some time for themselves. There should really be a national day for that.
They call it Meta Free Day.
Yeah, yeah,
Stay off of Meta for a day.
for a day.
Let me hope he
You know,
doesn't shadow ban us. But what I mean, just for a day. But I get it because we're listen. We're watching it. We're watching things unravel in real time. Like we're watching artists unravel. We're seeing some of your favorite folks literally unravel, and like you said, it's an inordinate amount of public pressure. It's like we didn't have this ongoing pressure when we were coming up into the situation, because you can do your work and you still had your private life. Like at this point, it's almost impossible to have it. But folks, pay attention to your work-life balance. We're going to jump into number 4, right? And number 4 is called budgeting for your projects, right? So out of the 5 biggest struggles for independent artists, we're talking about budgeting for the projects, right?
yeah,
Like that's a big issue. Like a lot of artists are not. Listen, you need money, and you need that's the first thing. You need money, and then you need to know how to allocate your money. If you don't know how to allocate and budget your money to make sure that your projects have a chance for success, you're gonna take huge L's. You
yeah,
can't overload your money in certain things and overindulge in other things, and then don't spend enough on promotion, don't spend enough on production, don't spend enough on just getting it recorded appropriately. You may not have the mastering money. You need to have budgeting for your projects. You need to know how to allocate your money, and that turns into a whole like a project management type of job if you think about it, right?
yeah. I mean, you have to know where to spend it, know where to spend it, know where to hold off and say nah. I watched the interview this week of an artist that said when he first got in the game and he started, um for a good time he was rocking fake jewelry, you know. Um but that and then a lot of people are like, wow, But if you think about it, why would you spend all of that money on jewelry? You need to focus on the things that's going to make your project successful. You know, yeah, you want the image, you want the look, but what good is that if you don't have a successful project? So he was rocking fake jewelry until he was in a position that he could finally start, wearing jewelry of a certain caliber, you know. And I found that interesting that this artist had that mindset, like, nah, I'm not gonna spend the money there, or I don't got it for that, you know. Um, so yeah, be mindful, you know. It's difficult because there's so many sharks out there trying to prey on artists coming up and will, you know, I just got a DM this week also. Upcoming artist said, "Hey, I got a DM from this person saying they can help me, and they wanted 3 grand." And I said, "This guy doesn't have any posts on his. He's who is he? What is he offering? I don't see anything. Check this, check that." And then about 2 days later, the artist came back to me and said, he's no good. All his comments were bots. He found out this and found out all these things about the person. Person scammed his friends and this and that. So you got to be very careful of where you're putting your money. When you're budgeting, you got to, you know, make sure you're utilizing people that can actually help you. You know, do your research. Spend time on the craft, the product, and the things around the product.
Tell them, because at the end, is it. Listen, I don't want to sound like a broken record, man. It's like, we've been talking about the scammers, and I understand that you have to hire people to help you in your business, in your journey. I understand that. I understand that you have to set budgets for the people that's going to do promo if you don't know how, the people who may need to do marketing, right? You got to set the budget for yourself, but you got to make sure those people are legitimate as well.
Yeah.
So
Do research.
So you got to do your research on that. So I definitely understand that. The other thing that I would say, when it comes to budgeting for the projects, is let's not forget the tax man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you're not, especially if you're out here trying to run your business. And I think in the last episode we talked about setting up your business structures, etc., making sure that you got different things set up. You got to make sure that you got the things allocated for the tax man. You got a budget for the tax man. Like, let's not forget that. Let's not forget the amount that it may take to get your content media done, meaning like your videos, your visual content. That's going to become a large part of your project, more probably almost second to the music itself. It's probably more important than the music itself, right? Because now after you've created the music, now you have to create the visual content to go along with it. And now you have to edit the visual content to be able to be spread across multiple platforms and micro levels. So
shop around. You got to shop around. You got to shop around. You got to look at reviews. You have to really do your due diligence. If you're looking for a video person, shop around, look around, see who's available, how much they're charging, and see if you can get a better deal or see if you can negotiate something with if you like that person. But don't get stuck on one individual. There's so many people in this music business that can get you what you want. For my guys that's working just 9 to 5, you're taking your check, and you may take a portion of it and say, okay, I want to put some money in this account for strictly for this. Take time out and figure out how your finances are going to go, and you take a portion out and say, I'm going to put this money strictly for my music career. Maybe every paycheck you get, you're going to set a money aside. Be realistic and make sure, again, and it goes back to the number 3, which is the work-life balance. Don't let that interfere with your home. Don't let that interfere with the other things that you have going on. Make sure that be reasonable. Make sure that the money that you're taking out from your check is not too much, or is not, or make sure it's enough, so that it doesn't mess with what you have to do at home. Okay, let me say this again. Make sure that when you're budgeting for your career, make sure that money is not being taken from your home expenses. All right. You don't want to be taking all this money out into this, and then your home is not taken care of.
You got no
The
place to
music,
live.
this music business will suck you dry when it comes to marketing and promotion. It will suck you dry. Make sure you don't spend it all. Make sure you have a place to sleep. There's a lot of artists out there that's living in a way where they're not sure where they're gonna rest their heads. So you want to make sure that you know when you're budgeting, that you're being reasonable with what you're putting in, and you're not sacrificing your home. You're not sacrificing what's going on there. Okay.
So there's going to be that alternate narrative out there that says, hey, man, you're supposed to risk it all. You're supposed to put it all on the line. Supposed to put it all on the line. If you believe in yourself, put it all on the line.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Does that sound smart though?
Yeah, especially if you have children.
Is that a smart thing?
Yeah.
It sounds good. You see a lot of these quotes and a lot of these sayings that people say, man, like they sound good, but when you really think about it, it's never the smart thing. And in this game, you got to do the smart thing. When you're spending money in this music business, it could go, no, it will go very fast. So you have to really think about, especially if a family, you have a child, you want to make sure they're good and that they're away from any issues. You want to make sure home is contained and it's good, and you have your side money that, look, it may take you some time to build up some money. It's going to take you some time to build up a budget for this project. And that's okay. Take the time to do that. And while you're doing that, you're learning, you're researching, you're inquiring, you're reaching out to people to see how much. There's nothing wrong with calling people and find out, how much does it cost for video? Oh, it costs 500. It costs 1,500. All right, you write that down. You put that to the side. Okay, it's going to cost me that much. Let me put a budget for that. Let me take some money out of my check, a certain amount, and hit that amount. So I got that. What's the next thing I need to do? Oh, I need some marketing. It's going to take me this amount of money. I'm going to reach out to a few people. Okay, there's good reviews on this person. There's good reviews on this person. Let me reach out to this person and make a consultation. Let me find out how much it costs. Okay. And you do that with every area and you write it down, how much it's going to cost. And then when you find out that total number, you add a couple more grands on top of that because things happen.
That's real. It's the realest thing. You know what I mean? Because like you said, things will happen.
This is a business, so you have to treat it as so. And the problem is, people just go into this, just want the hookup, going this looking for the hookup, go into this without really thinking about those areas. They hear this guy wants this, and they go ahead and without the research pay them that, and then nothing happens. It's crazy what people are doing. You got to be careful out there. People are preying on your money. There's actually an industry within the industry for that. So when it comes to that, you have to do your research. Budget well and do your research. Budget well and do your research. One more time. Budget well, do your research.
Tell them, brother.
Because man, the things that we've come across, and the funny thing is these algorithms know that you're an independent artist. These algorithms know that you're looking for this or you're looking for that. So they will push, promo of people who's selling services, and if you're not careful, you can actually link up with the wrong service or the wrong person that will take advantage of you. So just be careful.
Preach out there. So for the fifth and final, 5 biggest
Mm-hmm.
struggles. Number 5 is, you know, where do you put your money when it comes to investing in your career?
Woo! Where to put your money when investing in your career? You know, a lot of people, take their money and do some wild stuff with it, and then you have to ask yourself, are you really serious about your career? You're spending all your money on sneakers, you're spending all your money on drugs, you're spending all your money on just things that's not going to be beneficial for your career at all. You know, um, you you want that hot beat, then maybe that's where you should put some of your money into. You want to work with those producers, well, maybe that's where you should put some of your money into. You know, um, if there's a marketing person that you really admire and has done wonders for other artists, well, then maybe that's the people, or maybe that's the person that you need to reach out to and put your money into. You know, um, again, you got to do your research, but invest in the things that's going to be beneficial for your career. Stop wasting money on things that do not matter. And you see it time and time again. You spending money at the strip club, but and throwing away money, but the producer that you want to work with, you ain't paying. You ain't have a conversation with them. The artist that you want to get on your record, you didn't pay them, but you rather spend your money on some brand new J's. Just watch where you're putting your money. Like it should make sense. Spend it on your project. Spend it on the things that's gonna make your project better. Things that's gonna make your music better. Spend it on your career. Like you have to. I mean, I would think this is a no-brainer, but unfortunately, Jug, we've seen this way too many times. We've seen them spending money on things that doesn't do anything for their career, while the things that they need for their career is suffering. They won't put the money into their marketing. They won't support a DJ. They won't do spend the money on the ads or the promo campaign.
Or
They
the
won't
video
spend the
person.
producer. They won't spend it on the video person. They'll try
Yeah,
and get the hookup, or hey, I'm doing you a favor. When I blow, it's your name. Come on with
yeah.
that talk.
That's the
The
talk.
person, yeah, like come on. The video person got a family too. He need that money right now. You paid for a service, and the funny thing is, Jug, we do this a lot to ourselves. Like if we hire a contract, something that's not in the music business, they expect to get paid, right? Your car note, right?
Your car repair,
Ben,
right? Yeah,
Ben, Lincoln, whatever. They expect to get paid, right?
yeah.
When you call a plumber in and to come do your work, they expect to get paid. When you call all of these big companies to come do work on your house or wherever the case may be, a service, you know, when you call your lawyer, they expect to get paid. So what happens to the video guy? What happens to the producer? What happens to the DJ? What happens to all of these people that that's working with you? They should get paid. So spend the money properly. Spend it in the areas that will help your career. You'll be better off.
It's real when you say that. It's like we see a lot of waste, and then we see a lot of careers get cut short because as soon as they start getting some traction, the money is not reinvested to to secure the longevity of the artist. Like, you know, you need in order for you to have longevity in this business, you have to create a cycle of investing back into your career and finding the tools and the people that'll keep your brands relevant, keep your situation out here in front of the people, and to grow your brand, or even to pivot, right? Because some guys start off one way and then they're able to pivot into other industries, different roles that still make money for them, right? But you can't do that if there's not an initial investment in your career.
Right.
You have to get to those points. So again, I think this is almost paramount for independent artists. It's like, listen, as an independent artist, you have to watch every dollar, right? Because there's no one coming to save you with a bag per se. In most cases,
Yeah.
if most folks are going to have just marketing deals, at the very most, right? Marketing and distribution at the very most, but there's no one to come and really save you,
Right.
with extra money.
No hefty advances.
Yeah. So you have to be very smart about using your money and just making sure that your money is going to be able to be put into the things that make the most sense to advance your situation. We don't see enough money being put into promo. We definitely don't see enough money being put into production. We don't see enough money being put into visuals, if any. Some people are trying to do this without any visuals, and I just find that to be interesting. Like, in this day and age where everything is consumed so fast, there's no money for visuals.
Content based, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. So it's like you're halfway into business and halfway out. If that's if that's being, accurate. So you have to know where to put your money. Then again, in some cases you got to find some things to make your money grow, right? So that you have, some for when everything comes to a halt, because there's highs and lows in this business.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be prepared for when the run is over.
Right.
So yeah, that's another thing. You're investing in your career for the long term, because again, you may have to pivot, and you may not be able to get the type of money that you was getting before. So did you invest in yourself enough so that you can prepare for that?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of different things that folks have to really consider, and making sure that they're doing what they need to do to stay on top of the game.
Yeah, and then when you're even starting to make that money, you still got to watch your money, because if anything in this game has taught all of us is that you can have a good, successful run, and then you're hot today, and tomorrow you're not. And then what? You're not getting that big money for them shows. You're not getting the sales. What are you going to do when that happens?
Right.
So it's better to have these good saving and spending habits now, so that when the opportunities come, when all of the success comes, you'll already know how to move. This isn't just music, man. This is general, especially in
life,
and especially in the Black community. Where we're not taught, how to save, and
the financial literacy.
Yeah.
Shout out for these guys at EYL and those guys that are taking that on their back and trying to show guys,
right,
like how to do the financial literacy. Like that, there's more that needs to be done in regards to entertainment related artists.
Right, because
like to understand what to do with your bread.
Right. Yep. Because again, there's we've been around the block. We've seen artists come and go. We've seen artists that would hitting season after season, and then they're gone, and you're just like, what happened? And they can't keep up with the expenses that they had when they were hitting.
Yeah.
Those multi-million-dollar homes, and those multiple cars with the high payments, and on and on and on. Like, what happens when that starts to slow down or even stops? What happens when they're not booking you for shows anymore? What happens when the 50 grand shows, that you were getting, dwindles down to $1,100? Or that's even if they're calling you anymore.
Right, because that happened with the pandemic.
That's exactly what happened.
Right. So people weren't prepared for everything to come to a halt. So again, it comes back down to that financial literacy, setting yourself up, making sure that you're not overextending yourself, making sure that you know how to, where to put your money, how to put your money. And this is by no means is financial advice to anybody. But again, consult the folks who are professional in that type of situation that can help you to understand what it's going to take. So, for us, we were just trying to give you the top 5 biggest struggles for independent artists. And, most of it, was really centered around, budgeting and project management,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's really the main thing. So just to recap, right? We said the 5 biggest struggles of the independent artist, right? Number 1 being, the struggle of artists being able to should they be fighting for their masters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was like the biggest one, and then the second one we was talking about basically how to plan and finish your next big project.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other, number 3 was your work-life balance, making sure that you were setting out time for your work as well as your personal life.
Yep.
Number 4 was budgeting for your projects,
right?
And that kind of bleeded into number 5, which was where to put your money when it comes to investing back into your career.
Yeah.
To us, that's the 5 biggest struggles for independent artists. Of course, there's more. There's more. And there's more granular stuff like sample clearances and getting split sheets, and that's more of a technical thing. But from our vantage point, is the biggest struggles were really centered around getting the work done, finding the money to get the work done with the budgeting, making sure that you're reinvesting in the right things, and then also the retainership of ownership. The retaining of ownership, rather. I said the retainership. I'm having a weird day today, but yeah, man. I think that's a good list on these folks. Again, if you guys have any other questions, concerns, things that you want us to talk about, shoot us a DM. So forth and so on. We'll be glad to answer any type of questions for you. Make sure you check us out at www.arkatechbeatz.com, for new information, new tips, new resources, new blogs. We're doing new blogs that have a lot more information on different parts of the music industry. Start looking out for those.
Mm-hmm.
And I went live the other day on TikTok. It was a little interesting, but it's interesting. I want to do that. We're going to do that some more lives, but the live streams, once the live streams are finished, those will be probably just segmented to our group. So if you're not part of our group and you want the replays, if you missed the live, you have to be, a member of our group in order to see those replays. So yeah, man, it's the Arkatech Beatz Music Business Podcast, man.
Yes, sir.
We've done it again. I'm gonna get the claps in there. Hold on, let me see if I can do that again. You know what I'm saying? I don't do any sound effects the whole joint. Make sure you're following us at Arkatech Beatz. I'm on every platform, damn near. I know this is on YouTube and Spotify, but we're also on Rumble now. Shout out Andrew Tate.
We try to be everywhere.
You know what I mean?
We try to make sure that this information that
doesn't get taken down, right? Yeah,
and it's everywhere. And when you're putting out music, man, make sure it's everywhere.
That's it. You got to be everywhere. You can't segregate yourself to one platform.
Yeah.
Take
it down.
And I think we need to talk about that. In the next episode, maybe talk about the importance of setting up your own ecosystem online.
Yeah.
As far as artists having their own websites, etc. Because you see what can happen with banning. You say one thing that people don't like, the cancel mob is after you.
Yep.
So in this situation, you have to have your own platform so that people can get back to you and you can get your message out or you get your music out. So that's something to talk about, though.
Yep.
But till next time, folks.
Peace.
Peace.